Sponsored in part by Wormsway.com, hydroponics and organics, indoor and outdoor gardening. Garden anywhere, garden anytime. Stores conveniently located in Tampa, Florida, Erlanger, Kentucky, St. Louis, Missouri, Bloomington, Indiana, Sutton, Massachusetts, Nashville, Tennessee, and always at Wormsway.com.
Welcome to Growing Indoors. I'm Joey Baird. Well, we're going to get our seeds started for our coconut coir and our hydroponic system. Now, behind me is kind of the beginning stages of how we got things set up. So we found it an opportune time to get the seeds started. So once we get everything set up behind us, we can get the seeds right in, the starts right in the containers and get growing that way. Now we're going to have 10 containers that we're going to grow in. Now with the 10 containers, we're going to have we're going to go through everything that we're going to plant here. Now the 3 tomatoes I've got sitting here are what we propagated from the outdoor garden. Now let's go out in the garden and take a look at how we propagated these, and then we'll come back in and I'll explain the other things that we're going to start in the cups here to put in our Growing Indoors grow room. Okay, so we're going to start some of the seeds inside with our hydroponic system, but we're going to do an experiment. We're going to start some tomato seeds from seed inside, but we're also going to take some propagations since it's still warm outside and our tomatoes look great on the vine. There's no dead leaves. There's a little blight over in this one, but a lot of it was prevented from the whole grain corn meal that we put around the base at the beginning of planting. So we're going to take some propagations. We're going to take a propagation from the white giant, from the black Creme, and we're going to take some off of a good branch from the pink Brandywine. Now the key to good propagation is you want to find an outward plant or an outward limb here, and you want to go down about 6 inches or so, and that's what I'm going to do here. Make sure your hands are clean, your cutting device is clean, because you're going to cut this. It's going to take and we'll cut it. Now what we'll do with that is we're going to head and we're going to cut everything off but the top leaves. Now there is some flowers here. We're going to cut those off as well. I want to keep everything except for the top 2 leaves. Then we'll take this inside and we're just going to put it in some water. All the little hair follicles there, those will grow into roots once we get it in some water. Okay, on our pink Brandywine. Now for those who may be a little new to the tomato variety, pink Brandywines have a very unique, Brandywines in general, tomato plant, have a very unique leaf pattern compared to the traditional, the other tomatoes in other varieties. So with the pink Brandywine here, I like this guy right here. This looks like a really healthy one. I'm going to cut it there. I'm going to trim back all the unnecessary leaves and take that flower off. Going to take the flower pod off at the top. And there's pink Brandywine. And now let's go over and do the white giant tomatoes as well. And we're going to go ahead and put that in some water in the house and mark all these so we know what type of tomatoes, because unlike the Brandywine, we'll know how to define that one. These other 2 are going to be a little more difficult to determine. So we're going to start these in water. We're going to start some other ones in the traditional seed starting method, and we're going to wait and see which ones turn out best, and those will be the ones we put in our hydroponics or in our coconut coir planting for our Growing Indoors. So those are the 3 that we've propagated from outside. Now it'll take several days for the roots to develop, and we're also going to start some in the cups here, and then whichever the plants are the strongest we will put in our smart pot and our nursery pot. In addition to that, we are going to have a container that we're going to put some onions in. These are some onions we started several months ago for a project that this will work quite well on. So these are just some white Spanish onions that we're going to plant in. Also, we're going to start, when we put everything in the grow room, in the pots, we're going to start some champion radishes and some beets, and those will go directly in the coconut coir when that time comes. For the rest of these, we've just got ordinary plastic cups, and from our experience in growing and starting seeds, you always want to start with the plastic cup, not the paper cup with a wax coating on it. For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to allow the plant to germinate properly. So we're going to start with those. Now we're going to put them in the coconut coir, and we're going to put it in the clay balls, and with that we are going to be able to add our nutrients. But to start off, we're just going to have a mixture of ordinary potting mix I've added some vermiculite, as well as I added 2 large handfuls of the coconut core. So when the plants get started, then we can remove them and put them in the proper container. Now the vermiculite, you can also use perlite for that application as well. And all the perlite and the vermiculite do is add a very airy looseness to the soil. So what we've got here, I'll get these out of the way. We've got, and you see the cupcake tray, that seems to work very well for us when maneuvering or sorting out different plants in our little cups. We're going to do bush beans in one of the nursery pots. Now, we're going to start 5 beans in this particular cup, and these are just ordinary. These are top crop bush beans that we'll be starting, and I'm going to put 5 in this container, just like you would outdoors, about a 1/2 inch under the soil there. And then we'll water that in whenever the time comes. Now, on all of these, I've marked with masking tape and a pin so I know what to expect to come up. These are the black Creme tomatoes. This is also one of the propagations, is a black Creme tomato. So with the black Creme, with the tomatoes and the peppers and the cucumbers, we're going to start them a little different than burying the seed under the soil. Now, we do this particular method when we are growing and starting seeds for outdoor in the spring. So I'm just going to drop the 2 on top of the soil. Then I'm going to take some vermiculite and I'm just going to cover the top, and that will allow the plant, or allow the seed, a loose top soil. We're not covering the seed because when you cover the seed, it can stress the plant out somewhat to get it to germinate and punch through the soil. So with the vermiculite, it's very loose and the seed will come up very nice. This is the great white. We've got a great white that we've propagated, or about a 1/2 handful based on how large your cup is. And then once we get all of these done, we'll water them in. Brandywine the same way. Now with the black zucchini, I'm not going to cover it with vermiculite. These are very large seeds, so I'm just going to take 2 of them, and we're going to take the healthiest one. We're just going to bury them just like we would in a mound outside. Market more cucumbers. I'm going to plant 5 seeds, and we'll take the strongest 2 or 3 and a handful of vermiculite. With the peppers, I've got California Wonder sweet peppers. Now, we've decided to do the peppers in 2 different formats. We're going to do one in the aquaponics farm. Then we're also going to do one in a smart pot to see which one grows better. So we're going to start, I'm actually going to start 4 pepper seeds, the same way we've done with the other tomatoes and cucumbers. Put 4 on top, cover it with vermiculite. And last is a cherry variety, or small red cherry. We didn't have none of these outside, so we're going to start 2 seeds, and we'll plant the best one in the smart pot. And vermiculite on top. Then we'll get our grow room here all set up with the light hanging above. Now with this T5 light, this Pioneer 6, you could set it at a vertical angle if you so choose to, but we're going to mount some hooks in the ceiling and then hang it at the adequate height for these plants, and as they grow we will move it up. And we'll get that all sorted out and arranged and show you step by step how we're going to do that. So it's real easy getting our seeds started so we can grow indoors all winter long. For more organic gardening and food preserving, visit the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.